Out of order. Can I get roll call, please?
Mayor Gerardo Sanchez,
Present.
Vice Mayor Africa Luna Carrasco, Councilmember Manny Buchanan Jr.,
Present.
Councilmember Luis Cabrera, Councilmember Jose Ponce, Councilmember Matias Rosales,
Present.
Councilmember Gloria Torres. Mayor, you only have three members of council participating. However, an informal work session may be held.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and proceed with the informal work session. Did anyone else call in an excuse for not coming to the work session?
Councilmember Gloria Torres did advise that she was not going to be able to be present
Okay.
virtual.
Okay, good. Anyone else?
No, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go ahead and proceed with item number 2A, update and possible direction staff in all matters regarding the construction of roadway from 10th Avenue to County 24th Street and possibly expanding the process. This was brought about by myself as one of my topics. Mr. Eloy Rivera, give us an update, please.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor. Vice Mayor, members of council. On this project, I mean, we know that that's something that's really needed just to help the connectivity between East and West San Luis. We have the design completed. We have met with BLM regarding we need permission to build it. We actually have right of way along County 24th Street connecting between F and a half and 10th Avenue. And even right away along 10th Avenue, but we have to go through the process to just get permission to build it. However, after meeting with BLM, we learned that we have to go through the process with Bureau of Reclamation. And so, actually, I was trying to get it on today's agenda to get the resolutions to get permission to submit the application. But once the application is submitted, we can, we're looking at submitting a list of projects that are priority for the community, and they're going to help us expedite as much as they can the project to get permitted. This project, we have some funding at the YMPO to help fund this project. So really, the one thing that needs to get completed is really the right-of-way acquisition.
Mr. Rivera, I have a quick question. The right-of-way acquisition, this might take how long, Mr. Rivera?
Well, we think that after meeting with them, they never give us time frames. But I think that they can help us expedite the project, or the permitting process, and they understand that we have funding in place to start construction, and they said that they understand that, and they will make every effort to help us get that permission
Expedited?
Yeah. But no time we're given, it's really hard to say.
Can we start have we started the process, or can we start the process?
Yes, the only thing, I have to bring to council the resolution to apply for it. I have the application filled out. And then the next thing is we're gonna write a list of the projects that are gonna be in priority, and this one's on top of the list, and they know that.
Okay, so how fast can we do this? I'm always saying how fast.
It'll be brought to you for the next council meeting for with resolutions, and we can literally submit almost the next day, and we have scheduled a meeting to meet with the Bureau, and at that time, we're gonna be discussing the same thing we did with BLM, that this is the highest priority project, County 24th Street connection. In the past, Bureau of Reclamation has also helped us get something through expeditedly. So I really don't have a response as far as how far we'll get it. We'll just have to talk to them and see what they say.
Yeah, well, I think we should expedite it. I think we should start the process, bring it up to council, and then, yeah, we really need to do that because the traffic is not getting any better. We saw the traffic issue getting worse over the summer, and it's not going to get any better, especially with all the construction that's going to occur in that area. Okay. Any questions, concerns, Mario?
No, it's a good item that you brought, to the front because I mean we're in very need of it, of the project, and it's been a while that we haven't talked about it. I mean, we remind everyone for the project, but I think is better we start. Like we need to start.
Thank you, Mario. Matias. Matias is gone. Okay. Anyone from staff? Comments on this project?
Just one thing that I wanted to add regarding this project, just for everybody's information. The design consists of two-lane roadway with 3-foot paved shoulders, and then I believe 6 or 8-foot ABC shoulders, mainly the paved shoulders just to allow for bicyclists to use the pavement beyond the stripe line. And it's really what we call a rural road cross-section, but it will be rated for traffic, and it will be connecting on the south end of 10th Avenue, go around. It's going to have a T intersection at County 24th Street and 10th Avenue, and then it will go east and connect to to F and a half.
Excuse me, Mayor, we're having issues with the mic, so we're going to move them over.
Okay. I know Sonia can be pretty persistent.
No, I think this one, can you hear me better? Okay.
Yeah.
I could hear a little echo, but I wasn't sure. That was it from my end.
Okay, thank you. No, I just want to make sure that we don't drop the ball on this one and make sure, and it's something that was discussed now several years now, and we want to make sure we get it done. I really don't want to see this be a political issue because this has been in works for some time now. And I just want to make sure that we get ready, especially when they're going to start constructing the new school, the Somerton School in La F. And so it's better to be proactive and get ready for all that traffic that's going to go that route. And so thank you, Mr. Veda. I really appreciate that. Okay, so we're going to go out now with, are you okay, Mr. Veda?
Yes, I'm good.
Okay, good. Item number 2B, discussion possible direction staff in all matters regarding commercial vehicles, semi-trucks, and agricultural business parking on private property and the need to enforcement, including speed limits. Chief?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. This is one of those subjects where you pick a start and then you try to find out where you're going to end it. We certainly have had several meetings the past several weeks that have included Louis, Elogio, Jenny, Kay, Chief Ramirez, and a few others that were present at that particular meeting in trying to address the issue of commercial vehicles and commercial parking, and I'll start there. Number one, we begin to see a tremendous increase along 10th Avenue, especially down by U Street and a little bit south of that where the commercial vehicle traffic, what we call deadhead. In other words, they're dropping their trailers, unhitching their tractors, and then leaving, going to another place such as downtown to get something to eat, spend in the sleeper berth, and leave their trailers parked there. And so what we've been doing several weeks ago, in our scope meeting, I met with Will at BLM, who's one of their agents and enforcement agents, and he is trying to find the original letter that was drafted many years ago, and if they couldn't find that original draft letter for PD to help enforce on BLM land, the Arizona Title 28 statutes, parking violations, and those types of issues, they were going to go ahead and draft a new one. As of yesterday, Michelle and I have not seen the old letter, and so Will is drafting up a new letter that we can get to PD to go ahead and enforce that. Along with that, and talking with the LoGio, we can go ahead and post no parking signs from what we had talked about. In making that, right now, there are no posted signs there. So if we were to do an enforcement of that type of issue there really is a defense in court that would say, you know what, I didn't know that I couldn't park there simply because I didn't know that there was any posted signs. Now, we do have some posted signs for no parking in that stretch between 24th all the way up to the boulevard, and then from the boulevard all the way up to County 22nd Street. There are a couple places where there are signs that says no parking, and so what they've done is they've parked kind of in between those signs because there's arrows that point in the direction that they can't park. And so my feeling is at this particular point, to help alleviate the truck traffic there as far as dropping and going to sleeper berth time, simply because they're waiting to cross to Mexico. It's a weekend. We're beginning to see more traffic on the weekends there rather than on the weekdays because for one particular reason or other, they're not going across because they can't drop their loads over in Mexico. I think that the signs will help, and then the letter from BLM for allowing us to go ahead and do enforcement to tag their vehicles, have them towed if they do that. One of the other areas that we've noticed is one of the hot spots for commercial vehicles is right down where the refueling station is down there. And we did get a correspondence from Jenny today as far as R.L. Jones and trying to work out some solutions for the trucks to park down there, especially if they're going to be unloaded. What they've been doing is parking and then leaving their vehicles going downtown until they get a chance to do that. And what R.L. Jones is asking is that we allow them to park but stay with their vehicles as long as they're not blocking any of the private drives and roadways. They've been in contact with Frank as well to see if they can utilize some of that property to park some of those trucks as well. And I think that their solution to part of that problem will work well. Both Lieutenant Santana and I will go ahead and make contact with them to say that seems to be an amicable solution to the particular issue down there as well. One of the other issues that I've noticed has been on U Street, simply because what they're doing is the truck route seems to be coming down between Avenue E down to Avenue F, down to 10th Avenue. They make that left-hand turn. They go down to U Street, take U Street all the way down, and then come into the commercial lots that are located down there. So truck traffic on U Street has greatly increased lately, simply because of the amount of product that's being moved in and out from that particular area and location. It seems, as far as what I've been able to do with my vehicle, my radar, is to sit on U Street. They seem to be obeying the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit sign there, but in going to your second part as far as the speed increases are concerned, especially on the boulevard between Main Street and Avenue F, and again between Avenue G and Avenue E on Avenue F, that is county. That particular stretch of the boulevard is county, of which we do enforce and we do cite in when we have to, as far as that's concerned, into JP2 rather than municipal court. But what we'll also do in talking with Lieutenant Santana is upstep our unmarked patrol units, much like we did on Avenue F when Councilmember Cabrera had talked about the speeding between the boulevard and into the residential area. We put patrol units out there in unmarked, and we began to put one of the speed trailers out there as well, and that seems to have reduced it. So the goal on the boulevard would be to do the same. I know that between really 10th Avenue, there's not a lot. It's governed by the school zone, speed limit zones in the morning and in the afternoon seems to slow down traffic. But between 8th Avenue and 6th Avenue, and then 6th Avenue down to 4th Avenue, that seems to be a little bit of a problem area that we want to focus in on, simply because there are no, after you get past 8th Avenue, there's no break in the traffic in the morning hours and evening hours when it has a tendency to be a little bit heavier at times. Last night, while I was going home, traffic at 7 o'clock was backed up from 10th Avenue all the way to Avenue E. And that was pretty much, so I know that there's going to be a problem, and we'll try to address that with an uptick in patrols and citations that are being written and or even warnings depending on the judgment of the officers. So I think that hopefully will give you a little bit of indication as far as what we're working on at this particular time. I know that Jenny was working on also the study that she was doing. We also just got done with what we call a POP, or a police-oriented, problem-oriented policing report that Lieutenant Alvarez put together that I think would be very beneficial to you as well, and I'll make that available, which or any council members, I can address those as well.
Thank you, Chief. No, the reason let's see, make sure that, okay. The reason I brought this topic up was several neighbors. What happens is those trailers, some of those trailers are left overnight. Some of those trailers carry waste to the dump site. And what happens is they're empty, but they're not washed out. So late in the evening, the neighbors get a whiff of what was in that container. And so they start sending me pictures and saying, I mean, and it only gets worse in the summertime. And so that's why they're complaining about why are these semi trucks there? I mean, and isn't there an ordinance? Why isn't the city enforcing it? And so, I mean, this resident sent me all kinds of pictures, and he's true. I mean, we should have a designated area for the semi trucks. I know we have a lot of truckers that live in the city of San Luis, but we should designate an area where these trucks can actually leave their trucks overnight. I know before Council Member Maria and she would brought that topic up, that certain cities in California at a certain hours, certain streets became parking lots for such trucks, and that's how the city controlled. Like Mendota, I believe, was a city that allowed us certain streets were allowed where trucks can spend the night there to alleviate that problem. Maybe we can find a solution for our trucks to be parked in a particular area, away from the residents. So that's a possibility, and I thank you. I think enforcement is important. I think signage is important. I think we need to put up signs where it says no parking. The other issue was the speeding. One of the things I do my exercise late in the evening, and one of the things I've noticed is on Cesar Chavez Boulevard, like around 9:30, 10 o'clock, I see a lot of speeding, and I also see a lot of people passing the stop signs over there at where Ed Pastor is. They just bypass that stop sign like crazy. And I'm like, that's not good. Either one, they know where our police officers are at that time. Maybe our police officers need to move around. And I know I see them around once in a while on Cesar Chavez Boulevard, and also at the high school. I've seen people racing without the lights off. I mean, with their lights off at nighttime, going up the hill. And I don't want these people to get comfortable and think that law enforcement is not there. And so I know we're limited in the amount of officers we have, but I think we should start going off our routines, if we do have a routine, and actually start showing up at different areas at odd times. Make sure that because they think that all police officers are on Main Street or they're doing something else. And so I think it's a good idea for them not to feel that confident and always be on the lookout for our police officers. And so those are the observations that I've been seeing. Chief, you guys have been doing a great job with limited resources and limited officers, but I honestly think that we really need to start enforcing, especially those people who are ignoring stop signs or actually on basically decide to speed after they go from the gym, after coming out from the gym over there in Cesar Chavez. I mean, I've seen them spin out and want to drag race so quick, so fast, and I'm like, that's not good. And so I honestly think people should be cited. Citations should be given to these people, and so I mean, I'm pretty sure they're not doing it in Yuma, and so we need to make our presence.
Yeah, one of the things that we had stopped last year, which I think was a great turn, and one of the things that I had a hand in at the state level was there was legislation that was going to be introduced that unmarked vehicles, even though they came with red and blue lights, would not be able to make any type of a traffic stop or violation, even if it was committed in their presence. And one of the things that we rose up with was that's not an enforcement principle, simply because they're not going to do it in front of a marked unit, but if they don't know that I'm a police unit and I have the ability to stop them, they may do what they're gonna do and I pull them over and then they get the shock of their life. We were able to stop that legislation from going through because there's many things that unmarked vehicles can do that marked units can't. And I think as one of the things that we did last year on the Avenue F project was putting some of our unmarked units, such as our canine units, detective units, that run very specific traffic control in certain areas that you're talking about from the high school coming on up and also on the boulevard, I think would be a great deterrent simply because they can sit on the side of the road and people will go and not think about that being a police unit commit a criminal act, and then we can stop them. So I think coming up with that type of a detail again would be warranted. I go before the Senate and the House again on Monday in reference to another issue that will affect law enforcement. And so there's things that we can do from that perspective as well, but I echo your opinion. I think our residents also need to know that we're doing something about the truck issue. I know that off of 6th Avenue on the south, that's going to be an area that they might migrate to, so we're going to need to look at that. And I think trying to work with the private businesses that have much bigger lots that can accommodate the trucks, I think is going to be something that we need to do, or have a piece of property that maybe the city does own that we can accommodate that as well. Obviously, in future growth, Avenue E, because that's where commercial port of entry is, having a truck stop out in that area or being developed out in the area would be a tremendous help as well. So I think that there's some things down the road that we can do that I think that you've echoed. Some of the sentiments that I think that we share as well, that we certainly can do the very best that we can do under the circumstances, but yet at least have some type of a problem that's going to be solved for the community as well.
Very good. Thank you, Chief. I really appreciate that. Mario, any comments, concerns?
Yes, Mayor, that's a good item that you brought in because it's really needed in this area, especially, I don't know if you guys pay attention between Los Olivos, 6th Street and in that area, you know, a lot of semi trucks park also. And sometimes, you know, I get comments from my neighbors about that situation of semi trucks parking, you know, along that side. And I just tell them, you know, there's no parking for them. And, you know, they're also residents and they need to have their, you know, transportation vehicles close to them because they go within walking distance to their houses, you know, things like that. But I heard it before, and yes, we should have a place for them to park. And I mean, the city is growing, and we're having all this kind of issues. And you know, day by day, we try to make it happen. But I mean, it's good things. It's just a good thing that you brought it up, and of course, it's something that we really need here in the area about those semi trucks. And about the speeding, Jesus, speeding happens everywhere here in San Luis, man. I don't know. I don't know if they have radars or I don't know where the police officers are, but it happens here often, you know, within the residence area, it happens a lot. And what else can we do? I mean, you know, it's too late when we call police officers or we call PD to let them know that there's someone, you know, going over the speed limit in the resident area. That's the most dangerous area, you know, the resident. But I mean, I don't know if I should say it is what it is, but yes, I just wish that we had more officers, you know, that will patrol the area. But I mean, since we don't, I mean, it seems like they know where they at. I mean, where they're patrolling. I don't know what's going on, but I mean, they do it often.
Well, and it's a great point, and I think that, as you mentioned, the radars, every single patrol unit that we have has a radar in it. We also have our handheld radars as well. So I think getting into some of the details, I know that my motors officer has been out with COVID, with pneumonia for almost 2 months now. That hasn't helped. But I think doing the unmarked details that we did on that Avenue F project, I think might help as well. And those are some things that we can do on top of that, and if there are certain problem areas that we can address and run specialized motor details, I think that would aid the residents as well. But great points, thank you.
Yeah, also, I just want to bring it up because we're in this topic now. You know, I understand, I mean, for the longest time, we, as residents, or as council members, we asked before, like, how come our police officer takes the patrol car to their houses or to the residents? Why? Because they see a patrol car parked in the residence area and people will go slower and stuff like that, and they will feel, residents will feel more secure, you know, and things like that. And it's a good it's a good way to get out of it. I understand. I'm okay with that. You see, I'm not against it, but people seems like, hey, he lives, that police officer lives there. It's only the vehicle parked, but I mean, we don't do anything about it. So, I mean, it helps in a way, but you know, they get so comfortable that they don't care now. They just, I don't know, I just don't want to be negative, but I mean, they speed in front of them, you know, like they go over the speed limit in front of them, in front of their houses, because I mean, I have a few officers that live around my house and I know that it happens, you know, but I mean, it just, sometimes it's just a joke, you know, like when I hear from the neighbors too, you know, but oh well.
Thank you, Mario. Matias?
No, I mean, imagine if we would have increased the speed limit on U Street when council member brought it up a few months ago. That would have made the situation worse in regards to speeding. But on the trucks, yeah, I agree. You know, it's hard to control that. And what the chief said, you know, I think something that partnering up with the stakeholders, you know, Frank and, you know, Spindle Cooling out there, they have a lot of land, and maybe if we could work together with them and finding a way to find, I mean, they have the land to park these trucks, and it will get worse because my understanding is, you know, Circle K is going to be going under some remodeling in the near future, and right now a lot of the trucks do park there, but once they go into the remodeling, that's going to push more trucks into the streets. And I've noticed, you know, they're using the BLM land and so forth, but we got to figure out something. So hopefully, you know, working together with the stakeholders, you know, the operators, we could find a solution for this.
Thank you, Matias. Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Let's get those details activated.
So, Mayor, Sonia?
Certainly will.
Yes, sir.
Since last meeting, I forgot to bring this up, but if you could get with IT, the public channel, the audio is real bad. People can barely hear on the public side. I think it's on the YouTube or whatever that is, where it's being broadcast.
Yes.
So if you have IT, look into that for next time.
Yes, that has been brought to the IT's attention, and they're working on fixing that.
Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure before I forget again.
And thank you, Mayor. We'll work on those details for you.
Please. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. We're going to go item number 2C, discussion and possible direction staff and all matters regarding compensation rates for police and fire department personnel for their effort during the pandemic and present circumstances.
Hello. Good evening, Mayor, council members, Maria Munoz, HR coordinator. I have some information for you guys. I did a little bit of, quite a few research. Actually, I did reach out to Arizona League of Cities and got some feedback on the compensation for fire and police. We got some feedback from 11 different cities, ranging from Surprise, Gilbert, City of Yuma, City of Somerton, Florence, Show, Peoria, Benson, Cottonwood, Casa Grande, and Flagstaff. So at this current time, there are no other municipalities that are doing any type of compensation. They've done so in the past. They provided some incentives, but not just to public safety, like citywide. I also did reach out to Ms. Savori just to get some information as far as how many COVID-19 work exposures have been reported to her. So as of right now, in the last quarter, 25 have been reported. and waiting on approval. Let's see, I just wanted to also provide you some information on the current incentives that public safety is receiving. So right now, we have 106 hours are being provided for voluntary for COVID leave. So this is when a firefighter or is out with a positive, and also 80 hours for the police department whenever somebody's out with the positive COVID results. They also did a projection and analysis, finance, with coordination of finance and fire department. So right now, one of the things that are issues that are coming up is that our firefighters are working a lot of mandated hours. So they're actually getting pretty burned out. So what's happening is that they're working, like under the FLSA, they can work up to 53 hours per work week, 212 hours in a 20-day work week, work period, I'm sorry. So what happens is if an employee is scheduled to be on vacation, or maybe they're out sick, but they're being mandated to work those overtime hours, those, they're not, those extra hours worked are not being paid overtime. They're being paid a straight time because they had like a scheduled day off, either sick or vacation. So we're looking to see what options are out there. Like I said, as of right now, there's nothing really being done by other cities. They have been, like I said, there's incentives. For example, City of Gilbert gave a $2,000 incentive to public safety and $1,000 for all the other employees. And all the other ones didn't specify any amounts, but for example, City of Show, they just said it was just a small incentive provided to all employees citywide. So the analysis that our finance department processed, so if all those extra shifts that the firefighters are picking up, if they would have been paid at an overtime rate, it would have been $20,000, I'm sorry, would have been paid out in the last month. So just to kind of give you an idea of what the fiscal impact would be on that.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, Chief Ramirez, Fire Department. I wanted to add, the reason we're mandating, we have like a mandatory overtime because we don't, we always have to have 14 firefighters on shift. So if for any reason we don't have those 14 firefighters on shift, we have to have people stay over. Because we don't want to, stop ambulances from running or fire trucks from running, and the firefighters know. So what was happening is all these guys were either getting COVID or they had a vacation, but most of the time they were on COVID leave. So they had to we had to have 3 or 4 guys on shift every day. So that was brought to me saying, we're working mandatory overtime there was a crew that had to work December 24th, 25th, and 26th. And then we get COVID 2 days later or 3 days later, and we can't come to work. So now that overtime becomes straight pay. And that's the issue that was brought to me, which then I brought it up to our city manager. So we're just trying to find ways and get creative of how we can maybe work something out with, because the firefighters are working. They're not complaining. They're working their shifts. All our units have been staffed with 14 firefighters. Every single unit has a paramedic on them.
Chief, thank you for bringing that up. I know I spoke to a couple of the guys there, and the thing is, I think we should, and I don't think we should be, if we're forcing them to work overtime, I think they should be paid overtime. This is not something that occurs on every year basis. I mean, you quote a $20,000 pay or expense of something that COVID does not occur all the time. And the thing is, unfortunately, our officers have been sick. 25 cases. That's 25 cases. But I think for morale, why would I jeopardize or work overtime and you're working overtime? But then they tell you, no, this is not overtime, and people should be compensated, especially our first responders. I think it's only fair. And if other cities are not doing it, well, let's start doing it. If it's going to cost us 20,000, I don't think it's an expense. I mean, for the exposure they're being exposed constantly, they're the guys we need the most when we're sick the most. And so I think it's a small token. I think 20,000 is a small token or a small price for the great things they're doing. And I don't think it's an issue. When I have firemen, paramedics worried about their overtime, working extra hours because they don't have any more people or mandatory overtime, they should be compensated for it. And if there isn't somewhere, well, let's create a policy. I think we have enough professionals working for us that we can design, because I don't want to lose police or fire because we don't have a plan. This is mandatory. And the thing is, Chief, when was the last time that you remember we had to do mandatory overtime?
We haven't done it for a while. I mean, it does happen, not
Yeah.
often, but the circumstances with COVID, starting in December when it hit us hard, we were having 3 to 4 personnel stay over mandatory overtime. And that's why the number of the $20,000 is inflated. I mean, it's not that it's going to happen all the time. That's probably one of our highest numbers, but it is a big number. But like I said, I want to make sure that all our services are up. You know, we haven't, stopped any of the services. We have our 3 ambulances. We have all our fire trucks. And that's because, like I said, we have a minimum staffing of 14 firefighters every single day. And if we have 3 or 4 guys on COVID, that means 3 or 4 guys will be having to stay over.
Yeah, no, I think we definitely have to compensate it, and I think we should budget every year for such an event. This is like an emergency situation where we need to have the funding in order to pay our officers, or our police, or our fire, and our officers. And I think it's an issue. If they're worried, I'm worried about them. And the thing is, they should be compensated. If they stay that extra time, they should be compensated like they're supposed to. I know we can try to make it to the point where we don't pay them overtime, but I think we need to. I really need to. So this is the reason why. Thank you, Maria, for doing the research. And I wanted to make sure that other communities, that we looked at other communities, because we have a situation here where we have only 1 police station, 1 fire station. And I want to make sure that our guys are being compensated properly. And I want to make sure that when they get home, and if they're asked to stay, that they're going to be a little bit of extra compensation for them. It's only fair for them and for what they do, for what we depend them to do. And they put themselves on the line constantly on an everyday basis. I think it's only worth it. I think 20,000 is not a lot of money compared to the what they do for us in our community. Thank you, Maria.
Mayor, if I may, Maria, we went over several scenarios, and I'd like Maria to kind of explain some of those so that Mayor and Council can review them, and so if that's the direction, we can move forward.
Yes, thank you, Luis.
Yeah, no, I think we should move over. I mean, go ahead, Maria. You want to say something, Maria? I'm sorry.
No, that's okay, sir, sorry. So I just wanted to mention a couple of things. I did talk to Ms. Monica as well, Castro from Finance, and she did also mention that the ARPA money, the premium pay is coming up. Each firefighter and police officer are going to be getting a $2,500 check. She's hoping to get that out by the 24th of this month. Also, I wanted to mention, like I said, we had been meeting actually all week on this, and we just wanted to do like a couple of possible recommendations, maybe do either like a lump sum incentive, or do allow for an administrative directive to temporarily apply a protocol where we would apply over like any, to apply a premium pay this will be for citywide. I don't know if you want to do it just for public safety or if you want to apply it citywide. But where any extra shifts that are picked up will be paid at time and a half. I mean, we would have to double check with employment legal on their side, make sure that we're abiding by the FLSA regulations, but that's just another option.
I like option 2, but I think we should focus first on see what first responders is first, and then apply to the rest of the city.
Okay.
I mean, that's my opinion. I think right now the emergency is first responders, and I think we should expedite that. I like the second option to be effective, but I want to hear it from Mario. I want to hear it from the rest of council members. Mario, what do you think?
Well, Jesus, I didn't even know that they were not getting paid overtime when they work overtime. That's the first time I hear that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, sir, but they are getting paid overtime. I guess the issue is coming up whenever they have like a scheduled vacation time or they're sick, especially, you know, people have been out due to COVID. And so whenever they have any sick time or any vacation within the work pay period, it doesn't get paid overtime because it's considered as any overtime. They have to go, well, for us, for example, we're 40-hour employees, so if we have to physically work 40 hours for us to be paid overtime. But if we have any vacation or any sick time in that work period, it's just paid as straight time. It would just be 40 hours, that's it. So what's happening with them is that those accruals that they're either sick or vacation, they're just being put back into their accrual bank. They're not using them. They're just being paid. I don't know if I'm
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for explaining that. The thing is that the way that I know that overtime work is about 40 hours, right? So that's the way I know that it works. But I mean, once you work over 40 hours, I mean, I think it's considered overtime. But I don't know. That's in some areas, I believe. I don't know if it works the same for the city.
Sorry.
But yeah, no, whatever we have to do to get that fixed. And I mean, like I said, they should be compensated for their time. And I didn't think we'd talk about this before, huh, Mayor? Or
No.
I don't remember talking about this before because this is the first time I hear about overtime.
No, this is something new. It's because of all the COVID absentees and firefighters, paramedics are asked to stay an extra shift. This is what happened on the 24th or the 25th, and that's because of COVID. And the thing is, it does happen once in a while, but I think they should be compensated for it. They should not be, oh, by the way, you have this time where you have vacation time where it's like, no, if you work an extra shift, if you have to be forced to work an extra shift, you should get paid, compensated for that. Not vacation time, but not comp time or no. If you're asked to say you're working an extra shift, you've already worked your shifts, but you have to work on the 25th or the 24th, you should be compensated for that. If it's time and a half, they should let it be time and a half.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why it works.
But I think the problem they're having, and I understand what they're saying, is the straight pay after the fact. So if they work their overtime 3 days and then they come back and they come out positive with COVID, they're not getting paid overtime for those days off. They're using their straight pay because that's their normal sick days or vacation time. And that's where I see where we have to get creative to be able to figure out how to compensate an employee that went to work, first responder, or worked overtime. He's getting paid his overtime, but now he got sick with COVID. He has to stay home, and he's not getting paid for that, except for his regular sick days or vacation days or days off that are the cause and effect. So that's where I see that the issue and the creativity.
Yeah, Matias, what happens is when those firemen or paramedics go home sick, someone has to cover for them. And the thing is, it's the people covering for them that want to get compensated for it.
But I think they're also talking about the people that get sick. I think that's where the chief is saying.
So it's the same. So let me, if I could explain. We work on the 28-day pay period, we work 212 hours. Anything over 212 hours is considered overtime. So if we work the 212 hours and then I mandate you to stay overtime, let's say one shift of overtime, but then you get COVID and you're not working, those aren't hours worked, so then those hours that you worked extra are get paid regular time. And that's what's happening. So that's why the guys are saying, well, I mean, I was here extra hours working, you made me stay mandatory, but because I got COVID, or right now it was because they were on COVID leave, they're not getting paid the overtime. So you're actually, you're right, Mr. Councilmember Rosales.
Let's clarify that. And the thing is, let's make sure they get compensated for that. I really do, because they get exposed, they get sick, and it's only fair that we compensated for them. And I think it's like I said, it's a small price for what they do.
And that's where the creativity, the staff needs to figure out how do we make sure that the system's not being abused, and that how, who, and what, and what. So that's the part that we need to figure out, as the staff needs to bring back to us, and we could both move forward on it.
Mayor, if I may?
Yes.
Councilman Rosales, yes, and that is what staff has been working on. So we wanted a little bit more direction, just in what mayor and council would like. So what we'll do is we have some things in mind, recommendations that we have to just clarify a little bit more on the legal side and on the compensation side, that make sure that we are following the procedures that we need to, and we will bring this back to you next week for the council meeting, so that we're able to move forward, and mayor and council can approve the recommendations that we bring towards for this item.
I understand, Louis, but let us be clear. There is no policy procedure for this. We would be creating something for this.
Yes,
and
exactly.
So the legal aspect of it, there's very limited legal aspect of it, because no other community offers such a thing, because I guess they're not as competitive. We want to be competitive. We want to make sure that our fire and police stay here. That's an incentive. That should be more of like an incentive than anything else. So the legal aspect, I don't see much legal aspect on this one. So we need to be creative about it, and let's bring a solution, Louis.
Okay, definitely will, Mayor, and we have spoken about it, so we will work on that and bring it back to you.
Please do. Thank you. Well, I just want to say thank you, and those are my 3 items, and I will thank you so much. Appreciate it. Have a good night, guys.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everybody.
Take care.
Good night. Good night.
All right.